live streaming. That's just recording video, and we'll see how this turns out. First step, see how technically involved this is, getting the laptop to come back alive and re-hit the monitors. But when I went down to Oconee Library with the group, when Kevin was just talking about, and when I was down there and talked to the four or five of us that were there, only Bob was in that group. And as I look across the room here now, only Richard, and what I'm looking for is, and Ed and James, they're the only four people sitting in this room right now that were here possibly aware of the Athens Radio Club more than 5 years ago. Jess, you might be on the cusp. Okay, 7. But before that, and Richard, you vouch for me on this, that's a lot that went on, because we got involved 30 years ago to some degree. And a lot has gone on, and I just realized then, most of the people there had no notion of what was going on. So let's see why this thing won't work. Sorry for the slowdown of that. There it is. And that one came on, that one didn't. Hope you, can you see this okay, or should we get, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
I made it big enough for that part anyway. I know who I am, told you who I was, been doing ham radio since '92. Like a lot of people, took a considerable break, and then somebody told me about the $25 deal for POTA. Back
It's
in
actually free.
2020, yeah, he said it was free because I had all the old equipment out there. But the reason I'm saying what's POTA done for us is because it has changed a lot since that time too. And as it says there, I did plan to do this just about parks on there and just, oh hell, we won't let the force out, but no, it really hadn't. In fact, I then thought back how many of you didn't know what went on prior to that. And so I looked around a little bit. We'll talk about some POTA tips and tricks. John, or Diane John mentioned it, and so did Diane, a couple of them that I'll get to. But I went back and looked at the minutes, believe it or not, Derek. Not just yours, but I looked further back, and as Kathleen will tell you, we got a gap in a few years, but basically I was looking to see the momentum that went on through the club. And a lot of the meetings back then were 15 to 20 members that showed up. And I think you'll probably agree, look at the heads bowed, that's about right. And there wasn't anything wrong with that, because they were the same folks we knew, and we did the same things. But it grew in the last few years to the point where we moved from the church to the fire station, and the fire station will get too small, and having 37 in here last month was a pretty good crowd, so that's a good thing. There's a lot of confusion or discussion about what you need to do to keep your clubs active. I think the Athens Radio Club has done it. So that's what I'm saying. We even had some public service event races. You remember, Bob, that we had a lot where we didn't have enough volunteers to come. Hadn't hit that problem. In fact, as you see down there, when we had Winter Field Day 2 times in a row, we supported the Classic City Marathon. Kevin, you remember during Field Day, we were over there at the park watching the fireworks, but we didn't run out of volunteers. And I think that's due to the more active group that we've got now. And again, we were doing all this stuff, public service events, UGA football, and Skywarn Aries, activating EOC, all that stuff was going on. We had a repeater, but we hadn't stopped doing any of that. It's continuing to grow. It's made it even easier. And that's the things we've done with POTA. Just a quick overview. A lot of these came up on the morning drive time. I think, Richard, you'll agree. You heard the planning for some of these, like Winter Field Day, or Wicked for Halloween. But those have turned into annual events. And I'll be glad to go into the detail of what each one of those is, but all that stuff right there is things involved with Parks on Air. And that's what the KD4QHB call sign profile looks like now on POTA. You may not be able to see all these individual calls. Anybody know why they got to have all those on there? Because every time you use a special event call sign, you have to re-register with POTA for that time period. You can't, if you take them out like I did one time, you lose all your credit. So you can't do that. Charlie straightened me out from the help desk, we're all good now, I wasn't away from it. But also you see the number of 50 activations at 21 parks, thanks to Colin for doing some roving with the call sign, 5,237 QSOs. That's for a club in Georgia, little Athens, Georgia, that's pretty good. But before I get too far along, I want to make sure everybody understands, and you mentioned it too, Bill, a hunter in POTA is the same thing as a, what in SOTA? Chaser. And yeah, you don't get mountain goats in POTA, but you can have all kind of other awards. Basically, the activators go to the parks, and sometimes they hunt too, but hunters can be anywhere they get an HF radio, or mostly HF, and chase you down. And that's bigger, we can read it better, but the thing is, 29 of the people in the club have activated a park. That's a pretty big count out of the 70 so people we got in the club. God, I must put something in there to make it go. 40 of you have hunted a park, adds up to 2,800 activations. Look how many activated QSOs, 120,000. And that's, I didn't make it up, I didn't just swag that, it's on the spreadsheet, I know you don't want to see that.
Do those stats include the club itself or just the club members?
It does, so you can take out 5,000 of those QSOs. and the activations for 50 of those, that's still a big number. So I know 3 of people have done a bunch of those anyway. And that's the ones I saw that have activated. If I don't have your call sign up there and you've been active with POTA, let me know. I was thrown by this one, but that's not Scott. He's down there. I must have timing on it. Anyway, it's keeping me moving. So you can get these awards. Isn't it cool? You get all those awards. I mean, how many awards can you get, John? I mean, is that enough, right? I mean, but maybe not. Have you ever seen the whole list?
If you send me a picture of your awards, I'll put them in the POTA scrapbook.
You're gonna run out of memory on that outlet. Group size, but she will, and it's really not. That's the next advanced award for hunting. Who's done 20,000? I don't think anybody's a devil yet. But the yellow one, that's the highest one I got, and I think you got too, the 2,500 hunted or activated parks. Must be hunted for me. And then you get DX awards, Rover awards. I know Kevin's been all over that. He's gonna get a line of 30, I know, sometime. Early shift, and I'll get to early shift and late shift in UTC a little later on. Worked all references, so that means, just like, I worked them all in Georgia, activated all in Georgia. And you did in Florida?
Yeah,
And that's a lot more than is in Georgia, so I ain't gonna go there. Thank you, John.
we're working on it though.
I know, that's why I had to get ahead of it. And, repeat offender, that's what we did when we had the double Eagles nest. Jess and I both hit Watsonville Ridge 100 times back in November. We had the December celebration there.
I hate to walk out on your presentation, but I got to head home because
Okay.
it's getting dark and I can't see good.
Well, have a
Oh,
safe
no,
trip.
he wants to activate, that's what he.
I know, everybody's talking into it now. All right, so 6-pack award, that's tough, but if you do 6 meters lot, you can do it. And a lot more, he said, just a bunch of them. So, this is, that's enough of that. I'm gonna go quickly into the spotting page. I don't have the internet connection here, so I'm not gonna try to do live stuff on that. But you can do all these things, and if you got any questions about any of that, if you don't already do it, I'll be glad to get back into it. But basically, when I open up a new one like that, in the yellow up there, you can hit the pause button, but some people say it scrolls off my page too fast. And, but I sort by frequency, which is in green, or you can sort by the other, but the default is time. And every 60 seconds, that screen can refresh. If you're doing it by frequency, it doesn't move very far. Do it by time, it goes by time. So that's the first tip is, if you use a POTA spotter and you don't sort by something besides time, you may get a little frustrated as it moves along. We can fix it. If you only want to do phone or CW or digital, you can choose the one that's in blue right there. And I think I don't have that set, it's set on all right now. Somebody I was talking to at Shelby said, well, mine comes up in these little squares. Well, that's because he wasn't using table view. So it comes in little cards, I think they call it, which is okay too. But you can modify the way it looks. And the reason I go into this so much is because when I go to the park, I always want to work the other parks around me too and see what's going on. When you're at home, you can search through them a lot quicker that way as well. When you go to an individual park, like Watson Hill is right there, you see a lot of data on there. If you want to go back to it, you go to POTA app/KD4QHB or put it in the search bar and you'll get that right there. When you go to the more detail, you see that's the top left corner. And I realize it's probably a little harder to see right there. But one thing I want to point out, any park should have a web address to go to find the map. That's a good way to do it. Let's see. Okay, there you go, late shift and early shift times. Rich and I had a little discussion about this and make sure there's not any confusion. It's here, or at Watson Mill, it's 8 o'clock. Yeah, anyway, it's an hour different because it's all set just like time zones are, but it doesn't follow the admin time zones. It's strictly by the amount of degrees east or west of the GMT. So it's different. If you go further east in Georgia, it changes by an hour, but it only affects your ward. The UTC day is the thing that sometimes gets confused in there. So if you go out tonight, let's see, well, it just turned into tomorrow, UTC, because it's 8:02. That means it's midnight 02 at Greenwich Mean Time or UTC Universal Time. And so that's when, if I'm talking to John at 7:59:30, then John, we're gonna talk about 30 more seconds so you get two contacts, and it happens a lot. And if you're ever at a park activating at that time, you better believe there's a swarm sitting there waiting for you at 8 o'clock, or it will change to 7 o'clock after daylight savings time changes. And that's the web address I was pointing out right there. We won't go into that. And if you ever want to know who somebody is or who's activated latest, you can change this to 609. You see everybody's ever activated that park. For Georgia State Parks and there, this came in handy because I use this page to email everybody that has been to a park lately, and I would send it out. Also, if you want to know, you can see the leaders. Oh, look at that, Jess. I'm still ahead of in one column.
Just in one column.
But what I was really getting to is if you want to know who knows who, you know, Bruce is. Eagle 9, he did Charlie Papa.
He did Charlie Papa.
But twice.
Yes, I see.
Just like Zulu uniform alpha, but anyway, I don't know. But if you want to know who that is, and you don't recognize the call sign, you just touch that or hover over it and it gives you his stats right there. Bruce never activated park, but he's hunted a lot of times. Okay, this is more extras. So your QRZ profile, who's modified their profile on QRZ.com? If you haven't,
Did here this weekend.
because I've been activating before, and somebody will look at it and pull some data off, and oh, well, I see you did so and so. Well, yeah, I did, but I need to go and update that thing, you know. But it's a what did Chris call me? It looked like a homeless person sitting on a box. Where's Chris? Because I was sitting on my Apache case, and I was sitting really low, and I had the stocking cap pulled real low. But hey, I was happy because that was my first time getting all of Georgia. Anyway, it is a picture you can put in there. I didn't put my pictures, but that's the one that James has recently updated for the club right there. You also can find out email addresses, but more than that, it's just something to do while you're looking around doing things, or chasing somebody. One of that, you've done it, I know, Kevin. See the tower that somebody's got a set of it. They put all kind of pictures on there. Next thing is, I don't have a follow-up on that, but how many of you have started working on CW?
2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 folks have. I know it's quite a few I talked to at Shelby, but a lot in the club have that aren't, maybe not here. Scott, he's gone crazy with it, but you've mentioned it, I think. Oh, that's got an attribute.
Started in.
But a lot, since it once, it was a requirement to get certain levels of license to pass CW. Not anymore. And I was one of the ones that had sour taste in my mouth about having to do it, so I'm kind of hesitant to do it. I know all the letters, but it does still sound like gibberish to me right now, but a lot of people do it, and it's another level, a point to be enthusiastic about. This one's a new one you may not or may have seen, but if you ever want to know where boundaries are of parks, Kanan, November 9 Fox Zulu, anyway, he lives down in South Georgia. He and his dad are both cartographers, and they went and pulled the data up and you can go in there and see, I got the wrong one. He did this one right there. Oh, I don't have his picture. Anyway, he did one, you got counties, you got park boundaries, and you got individual park numbers, you can click on one and find it. The other one I've been bouncing back and forth is the POTA New Park Finder. So I just put the club's, call sign in there, centered it on Athens, and the green ones are the ones the club has got activation credit for. The yellow ones aren't. And this is a great tool if you wanna get more parks. I mean, a lot of people I talk to say, I wanna get as many as I can from here to there. You've done similar, kit, all three of y'all have. And if you want to try to figure out, what am I missing, what do I need to get? If you ever find a red one, that's no, I mean, nobody's done it yet. When I first put those 6 parks in a couple months ago, we had 6 red ones, but it didn't last long. They're all green for me now, but I'll just, but you have to move it around. A ham alert is one that, John mentioned. If you, who has tried ham alert? Yeah, pretty good number. You can do it on your computer, you can do it on your phone, it'll ring your phone. You can turn the notifications off too.
Yeah.
In fact, I keep a couple of them turned off until I'm really interested in doing like the Georgia State Parks from there, put all 52 parks in as one trigger, and if it ever triggered up, I knew I'd need to go find that park. So it helps. But if you wanna get Alaska and Hawaii, from a POTA park, you can do it, and it's not just parks on there, you can do soda summits as well, or other, spotters will feed into the ham alert. Another thing, he's not here, somebody mentioned using the web SDR the other day, because they couldn't hear me direct, they could, but they used the web SDR at another location, and I could hear his voice on the radio. I can't think of his name, anyway, but a younger fellow that just got his license, just got his general recently, and, Gant, that's who it was. And he said, I can hear you better on the SDR than I can on my radio, and a lot of people will do that. In fact, there used to be a fellow I talked to a lot in California that would do that. He could hear his 40-meter signal in the morning, but he couldn't hear mine going backwards. He probably had a lot more power coming this way. But Kilo India 6 Echo Alpha Kilo, if I remember right, and John. All right.
Claude, where's that new park finder? What is that?
It's a website that fellow put together, but if you Google POTA New Park Finder, it hits the top of the results list. And it's pretty easy to find. And what it does, when it first loads up, it'll load every park that's in that map view as gray. And then it goes back with the call sign you put in there and codes them for whether you've activated or not. And if you click on one of those green dots, like this one down here, that shows Hard Labor Creek, and it's highlighted, so it'll go back to the POTA site and activate 474 times. And this is, the club is activated 4 times, believe it or not, because we had Wicked for Halloween down there. Yeah, that's the ham alert that just tells what it does, and I did that pretty well. That's the web SDR page, which doesn't tell anything, but if you ever use SDR, you know you can sort and find one that you like. Now, this is the things coming up, and it's related to Parks on the Air. Support Your Parks Weekends, SYP. It's every season, so this is fall. 18th and 19th is a full weekend. But just so happens on the 18th is the Georgia POTA Fall Sprint, a 4-hour event where you can go to any of the 231 parks, submit your login, and it's sort of under the Georgia State Parks on the Air. Then we got W4H, wonder what that is. Wicked for Halloween, it's gonna be at Hard Labor Creek. What's the park number for Hard Labor Creek? Easy. Anyway, it'll be our 5th time down there, and it's gonna be on the 25th of October, which happens to coincide with when they're doing the haunted trail at Hard Labor Creek, so there'll be a bunch of non-hams there at the same time, which is okay. Already reserved the space, we're good to go there. That's the first one we really did and got people from all around the state I didn't expect to show up. It's already on Facebook as of this morning, and we'll advertise it some more if you want to. Winter Field Day will again, as far as I know, unless somebody says no, at Watson Mill Bridge at the cabins over there. That's roughing as much as I want to go. But, it's always been a blast to do that right there. I will say, I looked at the winter field day rules and computers can't run on line power anymore to qualify as emergency power. Lights can, but not computers, so, but I think there's a couple 100 amp hour batteries around we could probably use for that too. And then the Georgia State Parks on there, you may have heard of that before. It's the 18th and 19th, it's also the Springs of Orchard Parks weekend. And of course, any other time you wanna go to the park and activate or hunt, it's up to you. All right, I think that's all.
Good.
Any questions now? Yes, sir, you wanna know what POTA is, right?
I'm gonna watch that presentation again. What are the hours on, looking for Halloween?
I put on the Facebook page 9 AM to 3 PM, but it all depends on how tired we get, how many donuts show up, and if Clear Springs any Mexican food.
And where in the park?
Shelter 1, which is, as you go in the park, it's the first one on the right going toward the cabin. You can see it from the office right there.
Do you have a cattle prod to get us off the radio when you're ready to go home?
We'll just take the donuts away.
You ever had orange burn? I'm just saying. All right, any other questions, thoughts, comments? Yes, sir, Don?
I have more of a comment. There's a thing called POTA extensions, so on the
Yeah.
POTA, spotting page, I really like that, install those extensions, and several of the things, it gives you a couple of different colors, you can highlight, like when I'm working a park, I highlighted that, when I made the connection, it changes color.
Yeah.
There's a thing that you can spot, and it, spot that page, and it also, at one click of the button, sends it right over to my QRZ log.
Yeah, that is, I haven't used it myself, but I know that it is available. I also didn't get into the loggers, but there's a lot of things you can do with logging as well. I mean, what loggers do you think's the best? That always gets a lot of discussion going on, I'm not gonna get into it. Just log it. And, oh, I didn't say the hunters, it may have been on the slide. Hunters don't have to log, they can if they want to. A lot of them do. A lot of them ask me 2 or 3 times, what park am I at? That's okay. There's a spotter page, but for it to work, the actuators have to upload their logs, and that's about it.
That's a fun thing about hunting though, especially getting started, there's really minimal workload. You get to do the fun part. just-
Yeah, and that's what makes the CW draw for a lot of people, because the exchange is limited. You know who you're hunting. You know what their call sign is, what park they're at, and you really don't have to copy many characters. In the same way for the activator side, you know, all you're gonna hear is call sign 5-9 maybe, and maybe state, but there's not a lot of rag chewing, but Usher sent me a note saying, hey, tell everybody here that anybody that goes to a park and wants to try CW, don't be afraid, or if you wanna hunt a park, because most people doing CW are very accommodating and slow down for you.
The only CW contacts I have are POTA, and it's not very many, but
Yeah,
because
well,
it's
yeah,
pretty, it's
but
really doable.
It's like a contest where there's fairly limited exchange. You know, it's not a rag chew by any means. And, I mean, if it turns into a rag chew, I'm sure the power would go down real quick with it. Isn't that your tactic? Turn the power down?
Oh, that's my tactic.
Yeah, okay.
I'm tired.
All right.
What are the hours for the Georgia POTUS at Fall Spring?
The sprint is, local, 10 AM to 2 PM, whatever that is.
Are we gonna get together and do a club for that, or we gonna do individuals?
Really, what I thought about doing, if you wanted to, if there was enough interest in the club, was go to 4 or 5 parks and do 15, 20, 30 minutes here, and then transfer to this one. You can't do them all at once. That's in the rules. But it doesn't say you can't go to multiple parks. You swap operators, swap stations, keep the same call sign. And there's a lot of, strategy already being taught by other clubs that I've seen going on, so. I mean, you bet some of those in Atlanta,
Are
North.
you allowed to share their strategies with us, so we can test them?
What I just said is probably the best one I've heard. I hadn't heard any better ones. But nobody's thought about the fact that you can't go to multiple parks at the same time, or operate. But they didn't say you can't send 6 people out to 6 parks.
Leapfrog.
And, you know, and I might go here and operate for 30 minutes, and I'll text you and say, hey, I'm through here, you do yours.
You got us in
et
club
cetera.
yet? We're ready.
Huh?
You got us a club call yet? We're ready.
Well, it just so happens that Whiskey 4 Hotel starts that day.
Okay, awesome.
So it just so happens, if you want to practice,
I think we
it's the
can, I think we
weekend
can make that
before.
happen.
You know, and if anybody were to go down to the 3 for Cliville, I mean, that adds up, and maybe the Redlands, that's 2 right there.
Not gonna beat that guy that was at the 7th for yesterday.
Oh, and, well, we don't count anything outside of Georgia for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I think that's something that would be fun to do. It is on a football weekend, that's the only thing. All right.
Claude, thank you very much.
We know somebody.
It could be a state shrine if they win the championship.
Kansas City is 12 before 7.
Okay, well, that's all, thank you.
Thank you very much, Claude. As always, you're just full of great information. I got a lot of good tips on that.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, I did. Let's talk about the minutes from last meeting.